before the recording begins, I just want to say thank you to everyone in Lotus who participated in ULC. Thank you guys for making this the greatest team tournament that I could ever be a part of. It was a really great experience. A lot of you guys, like Genius, King Billy, Solo, a lot of you guys, pulled together and definitely contributed, was a huge contributing factor to how well we did in this tournament, being able to even make it to finals and being able to verse some of the best players, just in monotype in general. And just best players in general. We have Lax that we versed in Soar. We have Ian that we versed in X, Bush Tush, who else? Crow. Actually, we didn't. I don't think we versed Crowman, but a lot of those players are top 3. I mean, clearly as well. A lot of those players were top 5 monotype that we were able to even verse on even grounds, which I'm very proud of, that I was given that opportunity. So shout out to you guys, and also shout out to Bit for also being my right hand man throughout the entire tournament, helping me out with team building, with just scheduling, and just being a good friend throughout the entire tournament. Really couldn't have done it without you. So let's start the recording. Hello guys, Seba Live. So today we have the ULC finals between Lotus and X, the matchup that everybody was waiting for. So let's just get right into it. So first game we have Steel versus Ground. I'll show the thingy because I wasn't able to show this before, but we did do a scouting on literally everybody that we faced. So we're gonna look at X right here. And we see that double switches like to use poison, normal, fairy, water, ground, electric, and bug. These are just stuff that we looked at their replays and found out. So we see double switches. We wanted to lead off with. We didn't want to lead off with one of our best types, because psychic, Vincoon, fairy. We didn't want to burn one of those game 1 because it is a 7 vs 7. So we got to be able to use our types effectively, because using one type does open up a lot of other options for them. If we burn fairy early on, that means that maybe water might have a better matchup, or whatever matchups that fairy kind of throw out the window basically. So we see that double switches like to use all those types, but we didn't think they'd lead off with Vincoon turn 1 or fairy. So we were pretty sure they would bring maybe poison, normal. They might leave fairy, but we didn't think they would. It was poison, normal, or ground, and we didn't see us needing steel later on. So we just felt like burning it game 1. So the steel was mainly to take on the normal and the poison, as we did get. Let me make sure it's right. We did get the matchup incorrect. So even though we're in a bad matchup, Scizor can win this game in the late game, as a last mon type situation, because this thing will whirlwind us around a bunch, so we can't really just lead off with it and set up. We were debating having a Bishop over Magneton. That would have made this matchup a ton easier. So let's just get right into it. Garchomp lead versus our Scizor. We were predicting something like maybe Hippowdon lead, just to get our Mega immediately. So we got to get right out of there. Into our Skarmory we go, as he does go for the Swords Dance. We know he's some kind of Dragonium set or something. We're just going to Roost to get off a little bit of chip damage on him. As he does Fire Fang us, we're going to Whirlwind now, as he does get the crit on us as we Whirlwind. So that's the worst possible turn for us to get, especially because we Whirlwind them into something that we can't actually Roost on. So in comes the Seismitoad. We're just going to go pull a double out into our Ferrothorn here, as they do make a solid double into Landorus. Let me switch size. Oh god, okay. So we go into our Seismitoad as they go out into Landorus. They're just going to Focus Blast, as we do go for the Power Whip to try and get off some damage, as we do miss, so that really sucks for us. We needed that damage for Scizor in the back. We're going to go into our Heatran here on the predicted Earth Power. We're going to risk the miss here and go for the Lava Plume. If we were Magnuson, we would have went for it. But we lava plume as they go on the side. So we're going to go into our mag zone here in the predicted scald. Then we're going to fire off a Specs flash cannon because they do not have good switching for it. And damage on this means that our heat train can knock it out later with an earth power. As they're going to be reveal that they're faster, knock us out. We're going to go into our scissor and just U-turn here and take the scald as they do go out on the Garchomp to take the U-turn and get a little bit of chip damage on us. So we're just going to go into our extra layer. We didn't think they'd switch, so we're just going to fire up an Iron Head here as they do stay in. And we get that read right. They're going to go into their extra drill here and fire off an Iron Head, interestingly enough. We thought they'd Rock Slide or something, not allowing Skarmory to recover. But Iron Head kind of does the same thing. And they're Life Orb too, so they could have afforded to Earthquake as well. So they're just going to Iron Head again and Iron Head again our Ferrothorn. They really do not want our Scarf coming in. I'm assuming maybe they didn't have Rock Slide or something. I don't know why you wouldn't like Rock Slide at that point, but okay. So we're gonna Earth Power here as they go on the side. So it was the only play they had, and we're gonna Earth Power again, hoping for a crit because we didn't have a switch in, and we did get the crit, so that's really good for us. So into our Skarmory on the sack because we don't really have anything to take this hit, and we don't have HP Ice either. So we're gonna go into our Extra, try and get that damage that we were trying to get before. As they do go into Hippowdon on the Iron Head, we're just gonna go into our Heat Train here because the Lava Plume is free. We are in a balloon still. Though it would have been broken if, you know, what's it called, if he stayed in with Landorus at any time. So we do burn the Dugtrio here, which is really good for us. If he had Pursuit, we probably lost, but we're going to go into our Scizor on his reversal. We're just going to Roost because we want to keep our Scizor at the highest amount of HP possible. And I guess they don't want to risk us like SDing without getting damaged, so they stay in. In comes the Landorus. We're just going to go into our Heatran again because we know he's not focus blasting here. And into our, we're just going to risk the miss here as we do dodge. But if we're a Magma Storm, that'd be better. Because we get the Lava Plume damage off, but he's not in range of like a neutral Bullet Punch yet. So into our drill we go. We're just going to Iron Head here. Hopefully, we're hoping that he goes into a Powdon and knocks us out. So that way we can Sword Dance up with our Scizor. As they do predict that, and they do play this endgame really weird, just like slack off spamming and stalling us out of Iron Heads, because if we are stalled out of Iron Heads then we can't touch either of these mons and they can just come in and pretty much end the game. So it's just gonna get a little bit stally, just playing mind games around Iron Heads and switching. We have to like predict the turn that they swap into Landorus, or like I don't know, like it's really hard for us at this point to like win it because they're not killing our Excadrill. We need to like sack Excadrill. We need to like stall them out of Whirlwinds and Stealth Rocks, or sack Excadrill on the Earthquake and try and SD with our Scizor. But they keep doing this, and then they finally switch into Landorus when we're at 52% because then we lost anyways. And I guess we could have SD'd. Could have knocked us out potentially, but yeah, we basically lose at this point because we knock out the Landorus and then they go into drill and we get the damage off of BP, but we do die to Earthquake. So that was game one. Not the strongest of start. Oh god, what am I doing? Not the strongest of start for us because we didn't get the matchup right, but we were trying to, you know, pull it back from here. So game two, we have Ian versus Genius. We felt like versus Ian we had to bring our strongest type. We were thinking about bringing Coon or something, but we decided on Fairy just because it had a decent matchup versus what he used. So if we look at what Ian likes to use, Ground, Psychic, Steel, Normal, Water, Electric, and Bug. We knew we wouldn't bring either of these, and they don't have a good Steel either. So we're predicting maybe the Water or the like one of these three, and he can't use Ground either, so it's one of these three. And we did make our Bulu banded so that we can't really lose to Vincoon. I mean, they can burn us, but like even banded we can still put on a ton of work. I mean, even burned we can put in a lot of work. So we made our Bulu banded, as well as this thing is like Life Orb T-Ball Grass Knot. So we were really trying to get that Vincoon matchup right, as he ends up bringing normal. So the matchup isn't horrible for us. Like Azumarill can sweep, but he does have the Ditto, and then Banded Disc has 0 switches beside for Staraptor, which we do have Stone Edge for. So let's just get right into it. We lead off with our Bulu because we don't want him leading off with Diggersby and getting a kill immediately. We're gonna pull a switch right into our Diancie, knowing that he's never staying in and he's going to go into his Staraptor, so he can potentially use her now and gain some momentum. We're going to get up our rocks here as he goes down to Chansey. We know he's going to probably get up his rocks here, because even if he rocks and we stay in, like, it's a no drawback play for him, as he does go for that rocks. Now we're going to go out into our Bulu, as he does go for these soft boiled, and now we're going to fire off a Horn Leech here, if I'm not mistaken. No, a Super Power, because if we went for a Wood Hammer there, we would have killed ourselves because the recoil, because Chansey has like 700 HP. So we didn't want to do that. So we just fire off a Super Power because it hits everything. It wouldn't 2-KO Staraptor, but it'd still do a ton, and at least force it to defog and stay low. Because you can't really roost as we Super Power. Actually, I guess he can, because we'd be faster. But yeah, so we're going to Super Power here as he goes down to P2. We're going to just Super Power again, because there's no reason not to. Because it does 2-KO him even after rocks and grassy terrain recovery. So he's going to go out into his Ditto here on the second Super Power. We're going to go into our Clefable because it does take any hit, and he does make a good play going out into P2 to recover. So he's going to get up the free recovery here as we do go out into our Coco. We're just going to fire up a Thunderbolt, just kind of see the damage, as it's not even a 2-KO apparently. As he goes for the recover, we didn't have to Vault Switch here because like we didn't want to take the Life Orb damage, especially when he's just going to recover again anyways, as he does predict us maybe going out in the Bulu and Ice Beams us and gets the freeze. So now this freeze is absolutely horrible for us, because now our check to Diggersby, not check, but it comes in and sets up Reflect, but we can't do that anymore because we're now frozen. So we're going to go into our Diancie here, just in case we wanted to double out into Diggersby, because we were frozen and it was pretty free for him to like go into that Mon if he wanted to. So we're going to go into our Diancie here. Now we're going to go out into our Clefable, as he does discharge us and gets the Para, which isn't the worst for us, because while it is kind of annoying, at least we have our guaranteed check to his P2 and don't have to worry about getting frozen. So we're just gonna fire off a Moonblast here because, you know, it's kind of free. We don't really have any reason not to. He's gonna hard switch directly into his Diggersby here, trying to get his kill immediately. Frustration is super easy for him here because while Diancie can come in, I'm pretty sure it dies at 66% because its HP is garbage, and Klefki is also frozen. So we're gonna go directly into our Klefki here, knowing he's just gonna fire off a return here as we get frozen. We're trying to get like unfrozen to set up screens here for our Azumarill to try and come through. As we do break through and sack our Klefki here, we're just going to go into our Azumarill here, and we're just going to drum here and try and get something going. Basically, we're trying to just knock some mons out on this team so that Tapu Bulu can win. So we're going to Z drum here, and he goes down to Chansey as we do go just for the Aqua Jet because it's safe. We can just fire off a knockoff here. He can't go into his Staraptor and pivot around because we still do have Banded Bulu in the back, and if he loses Staraptor, he will lose this game. So he's going to go into his Diggersby here as we do go right for the Aqua Jet as he goes for the Quick Attack. It's totally fine. Into his Ditto he goes. We do not have a switch in Aqua Jet, so we're just going to sack our Azumarill here. I mean, we use our Z item too, so there's no point to save that. So in our Bulu, we're just going to fire off a Horn Leech here because there's no reason not. I mean, we could have predicted his Staraptor if we wanted to, but I mean, Horn Leech was just free, so, you know, no reason to make any reads there. So into our Coco there, as well as also, if he did go Staraptor, we just go directly into Coco and just fire off a Thunderbolt and get into a KO everything on his team. So he's just going to defog our screen and the rocks away as we're just going to go into Coco and fire off a Thunderbolt. He doesn't have a switch in, so he's just going to sack the Staraptor immediately. In the low point he goes. We're not afraid of any fake out set because we know he runs Encore Power Punch. He's been repping that set all over, like all in the forums, all in the Monotype main chat as well. So we know for a fact that he's Power Punch, and return is like 83. It doesn't kill us at this range, so we can just stay in and fire off a Thunderbolt. We do 2-KO everything on his team as he just sacks the P2. No reason to switch here on a Power Punch predicting us to swap, so we just sack our Coco here as we can just go out into our Bulu here. just fire off a Horn Leech and just 2-kill everything on his team. He goes down to Ditto on the Horn Leech. I guess he could have Woodhammered and killed himself and then maybe knocked us out with return, but even then, like, we have Clefable like at a high amount of HP, so we're not really afraid of anything. So we just knock out his Ditto as he goes for the Horn Leech. Into his Lopunny he goes, we just Horn Leech that, and that is GG, because there's no way it lives a Banded Horn Leech. So that's game 2. We're now 1-1. We're feeling pretty good about ourselves at this point because we did knock out their best player, though we did burn our best type. So let's go to game 3. So we have King Villieu versus, let me just change this. We have King Villieu versus Yaxok. So we knew for a fact that they would bring Dragon, because if you look at Yaxok's scouting, we see Dark Dragon, Fire, Ghost, Fairy, Water, Normal, and Psychic. They already brought the Normal, and they already they already brought the Normal, and yeah, we didn't think they would bring. I thought there was ground in here. My bad. That's why I was like looking for it, but it wasn't like anywhere to be found. So just looking at what he likes to use, we already used Steel and Fairy, so like Dragon was like such a good pick for them, and the fact that Yaxok already uses a lot of Dragon, we knew that Dragon was coming. We felt it coming, honestly. And we didn't think they'd bring Dark, Ghost, or Fire when they're down, when it's 1-1. And we didn't even think they would burn the Fairy so early, though they could have if they wanted to. But like Normal wasn't like a bad matchup for us or anything. So we're just gonna go right into the replay. We do have Ice Punch Lopunny. We swapped that set, and man, we were gonna run Max Happiness Ditto because we felt like they would run Max Happiness, predicting us to be Min Happiness. But we ended up changing it to Min Happiness right before this, which really sucked because I would have put in so much work. Let's start off the game. So we lead off with our Lopunny because it has good matchup versus everything. We are Fake Out Ice Punch. We kill everything as a lead, basically. As he leads off with D-Knight, we wanted to Ice Punch here because that would have been like the man's play, because Garchomp is so obvious, and we would have been able to kill this too. As he goes directly into Altaria on the Fake Out, we're just gonna go into our P2 here because it does take it on. As he does fire off a return. Also, that Fake Out damage tells us that he's max HP or something, some HP invested. We didn't know for sure at what point. I'll make sure to tell you when. But based off that damage right there, and the fact that this was a crit and it only did 29, we know that he's probably refreshed, which is our worst fears basically for this matchup. So into his Kyurem he goes as we do fire off an Ice Beam. We're just gonna go on to our Ditto here because we didn't like. The ICMZ was actually a roll. It's a high roll for P2, and we didn't want to risk it. Like, it was absolute max that he needed to get. Like, you see it says 70.3. It was like 71% max or something like that. Or 73% max. One of those. So we're just going to sack our Ditto as he goes for the Ice Beam. So he reveals that he's the Life Orb 3 attack set, most likely, with Roost. As we're just going to fire off an Ice Beam of our own, hoping to basically sack this Mon because we don't need it. We're going to go for another Ice Beam as it seems that he can actually roost off the damage. So we're going to go directly into our Chansey here because we know the set that he is. As he goes for the Ice Beam, he's going to roost as we do go for the Stealth Rocks here. And then we're just going to fire off a Toxic because there's no reason not to. It's free versus everything on this team. And now we're just going to fire off an S-Sauce as he's probably just going to get his Rocks up here. And now we're just going to soft foil spam as he does go for the outrage. So we know for sure he's sashed. I mean, we only saw rough skins, so we figured he was sashed. So we're just going to soft foil spam here as he's just going to basically sack his Garchomp here to the outrage. And now we're going to, his Altaria comes out. We're going to go directly into our Diggersby because at +1 we can live a non-invested return. It is a roll. And if he does risk it, we can keep his Altaria low. As he goes for the Roost, so we can just fire off a free return, free frustration here, because he has no switches. Everything dies to frustration besides this Mon. As he does stay in, and reveals that he's faster and that damage, and we get like a huge hit on Altaria. So based off of everything we've seen, we know that his Altaria is most likely max speed, max HP. Maybe he has just enough speed for like Bisharp and Breloom around that speed tier. I run that speed tier on my Cotton Guard set. It's just like 264 speed, max HP, and the rest in Spadef. It seems that he's running a very similar set. So he does outspeed and 2KO our Diggersby here, which is kind of unfortunate, but it's oh well. We can go right into our low funny here, and we basically got a free kill with return. As he goes out into Hydreigon here, we could have pivoted in the Chansey, but we know there's no way that they're not Specs or Life Orb, so we can just kill off the Hydreigon there. As he goes out into Latios here, we can just go out into our Chansey, as he does go for the Defog. We should have probably rock spammed here, but I think it's okay. Into his D9 he goes, as we go for the S-Toss, not allowing the Altaria to come in, as we're going to go into our Ditto on the Sack. We did not have good switches to Outrage. As he goes right for the Superpower, we're going to go into our low punny, just to Ice Punch, because if we returned, it didn't actually kill max HP, though he was probably max speed anyways. He's going to go into his Kyurem here as on the Ice Punch, as we're just going to risk the HJK here and knock him out. Into his Latios we go. We're just going to sack low punny, though, like, we could have saved it. We could have won the Chansey, but we didn't want to go into Chansey, have him double in Altaria and Roost, and, you know, be a full again. So we're just going to sack our low punny there. Into our Chansey we go. We're just going to fire off another S-Toss, not allowing the Altaria to come in. Probably should have rocked there, because that probably won the game. But, oh well. Can't do anything about that. So he goes for the Superpower there, as we stay in with Chansey. I thought that Superpower didn't kill, so we ended up staying in. But, probably should have went Staraptor there, for sure. Apparently it does, like, 83 min to, like, 97. So we definitely should not have stayed in there. So we lose our Chansey there, which is unfortunate. We can go into our P2 here and just Roost to be at a high amount of HP, because we know Latios is going to come in. We're going to go into our Staraptor here on the trick, as he does go right for that trick. So now we're just going to fire off a Brave Bird, because we don't want him to trick again and have our P2 neutered, as he does go for the Psychic. So now we can Brave Bird again, as he kind of makes a choke, honestly. He should have sacked Dragonite, then went back into Latios, tricked our P2, and then 1v1 with Altaria, as he chooses not to for some reason. So we can kill his Latios there. We're going to Brave Bird the D-Knight again and knock it out, because if we went for E-Speed, we won with our P2 anyways, so like there was no reason for us not to just Brave Bird again. So now it's P2 versus Altaria here, and we're just going to Ice Beam, like cycle between Ice Beam and Toxic, as even at like +3 he wouldn't beat us, and we're stalling him out of Roost till eventually we beat him 1v1. So they actually misplay and Dragon Dance on the wrong turn, and we knock him out. So now we're 2-1. Again, we're feeling really good about this, because we're getting well, we're not playing at our best ability, we are getting the matchups right, and that's really carrying us through the matches, because like a lot of our games this season were won before the games were played, just in the scouting and team preparation, and you know, building new teams for what we think they would bring. That really carried us through a lot of our matchups. So next game we have Bit versus PCM. Again, we look at PCM, we see that he uses Bug, Water, Normal, Psychic, Ground, and Steel. They do not have a good Steel. Ground was already used, Normal was already used. So we were predicting maybe the Water or the Psychic to come out. We didn't think they'd bring Bug when they're down 1 either. So it was only Water or Psychic that would come out. And we kind of went all in on the Psychic basically. Apparently Bit said that this team can win versus Balanced Water, though you do have to play really aggressively. So let's just get right into it. We do have the matchup though, because this is banded with U-Turn and Infiltrators, so screens don't matter. Scarf Guard, because you know, X never builds Psychic teams with a Ghost resist or immunity, because they basically ignore that matchup in general, or any type of Ghost stab. And then we have Max Attack AV Muck. So matchup's looking really nice for us, regardless of like Psychic being quote unquote super effective on Poison. So he leads off with Deoxys. We're going to lead off with our Crobat, because we know they're not some offensive Dio set, and Crobat has good lead matchup versus everything on their team, besides from maybe a Teeny. But if they let off with Teeny, then we got our Rocks immediately, so it didn't really matter if we wanted to lead off of that. So leads off with Dio. We're just going to fire off a U-Turn. Like, we ignore screens, so it doesn't matter. Like, he's going to take a ton from that. Directly into Gengar we go, because he did not choose to set up a light screen there, so we can just fire off a Scarf Shadow Ball and knock him out because we do outspeed. In comes the Zam here. We're just going to go into our Muck on the Psychic, and then we're going to pivot from Muck into Venusaur. We could have went directly into Crobat there, but if we did go into Crobat and he's Psychic there, we probably lost or had a very good chance at losing, because Crobat was very, very important in dealing with Gallade, since it does ignore these screens and does have Infiltrator and can Revenge Kill it even if it has Shadow Sneak. So we go into Venusaur on the counter as he lets us break the Focus Sash on Zam, which is amazing for us because now that means it can't trap our Muck anymore. I'm pretty sure he was the set that he ran versus Alpha with no Shadow Ball, like Thunder Wave, stuff like that. So we're just going to sack our Venusaur here. Into our Nidoqueen we go. We're just going to get up our Stealth Rocks here because we are Focus Sash, as he does go for the Psychic. And we're just going to save the sack and go into our Muck here on the last turn to Reflect and just pick him off with the Shadow Sneak. We didn't want to take a Thunder Wave, and we figured he'd stay in because nothing wants to come in on a Shadow Sneak after Rocks. In comes this Gallade. We're just going to sack our Nidoqueen here. That's what we saved it for. Into our Crobat we go. We just fire off a Banded Brave Bird. We could have U-turned there, but like we didn't want him to like try and take advantage of that and stay in with his Gallade, and then maybe get off a Zen Headbutt or something like that. So we're just going to fire off a Banded Brave Bird. We do knock out Latios after Stealth Rock as he goes down to his Victini. We're just going to sack our Nidoking because we do not need it anymore. Well, it wasn't useful to begin with anyways, as it's just going to knock us out. Into our Gengar we go, and we can just clean up with Shadow Ball at this point. Even if we don't kill his Gallade with Shadow Ball, we have Banded Bird and Muck to clean up the game. As he just straight up dies, into his Mew he goes. We're just going to Shadow Ball that, as he's probably going to live, but it doesn't matter at this point. He's just going to knock us out with the Psychic, and we can just go out in the Muck and Shadow Sneak to finish him off. So we're now up 3-1. We're basically like, we should win this unless we choke, because all we needed was one more win. So let's just get right into the next game. So we ended up bringing Grass. Grass hasn't done well for us at all, but we decided on bringing Grass because if you look at what Bush Tush uses, we see that Bush likes to use Normal, Ground, Steel, Fairy, Flying, Fighting, Psychic, and Fire. Normal was already used. Ground was already used. Steel, they don't have a good Steel. Steel isn't even that good, good in general right now. Fighting, they wouldn't bring it there down to. Psychic they already brought, and Fire they wouldn't bring it there down to either. So it was either Fairy or Flying, but we more so predicted Fairy, because like you would bring your strongest type even if like when you're down to, no matter how obvious it is, because Fairy is just so good in the meta, it can just beat like a ton of types anyways, so it doesn't actually matter. So let's get right into it. Where's the replay? Okay. So we decided on bringing Grass, and we did get the matchup right, so we should win this. I mean, breaking Venusaur is very hard for Fairy to do, but with hazards up, anything is possible. So let's just get right into it. Let's switch sides. Leads off with Coca as we lead off with Venusaur. We're just going to fire off a super safe Leech Seed because we know they're not going to be any type of Brave Bird Flying EMZ set, and that wouldn't kill Venusaur from full anyways. So we're just going to get a Leech Seed on the Klefki double, as we're going to go into Cradily and start layering up our hazards, like as he's going to do the same. He's going to get up Spike as we're going to get up our Rocks here. In comes the Clef. We're just going to go out into our Venusaur here because we can't go into Ferrothorn because he has Fire Blast. So we're just going to fire off a Sludge Bomb here as he goes out on the Klefki. So now we're going to go out into our Ferrothorn here to try and get up some more hazards, as he does go for the Thunder Wave, which is annoying, but it's not really that bad for us. So we're going to try and get up some spikes here as he does get the Para. We're going to again try and spike as he gets another Para, and now we spike up again. Now we try and get up another spike as he goes directly in the Clef. We're going to go hard into our Venusaur here. This was a bit risky because with hazards up, if he did double into like Diancie, that could put us in a bad situation. But he's going to just fire off a Fire Blast here as we bring in our Venusaur. We're just going to Synthesis here to try and beat as much HP as possible. As in, again, his Klefki comes in. He's going to Light Screen here because he knows that we cannot risk staying in. We're going to double into our Rotom so that we can take the Thunder Wave or whatever he wants to go for. We're just going to Volt Switch here because it covers any type of double that he wants to make. As he goes out into his Tapu Bulu here, Into our Venusaur we go, because we take on basically any type of Bulu set, unless he's Zen Headbutt, but we had to recover here anyways. So into his Klefki he goes, as we do go for the Synthesis here. And we're just going to go out into our Ferrothorn and try and get up some more hazards, as he gets up his Reflect now. And we're just going to try and get up a second Spike here, as we do get up that second layer. Now we're going to go out into our Cradily here, as he pulls a double out into his Tapu Koko, predicting that. We like Cradily did the same as Venusaur, but we didn't want Venusaur taking damage. So he makes a good play into his Koko. He reveals that he's Taunt, which is kind of bad for us, because now at this point we're realizing, okay, if Venusaur comes in on hazards and he taunts us with Koko, he's going to keep us low so that his Diancie can revenge kill us, or his Tapu Bulu with Stone Edge. So we really got to be careful with our Venusaur at this point. So he taunts our Cradily here. We're just going to go directly into our Breloom on the sack, as he goes for the probably HP Fire, if I'm being honest. We're just going to sack Breloom with the Mach Punch. And now we're going to go out into our Scarf Bulu here, because it does revenge kill this thing. And we know he's not staying in. We could have hammered, but we knew he wasn't staying in. So we're just going to Horn Leech here, as he does go out into Clefable. And now we're going to go out into our Cradily here, in case we wanted to double again, predicting our Venusaur, as he just Fire Blasts and gets the burn, which doesn't matter because we do still avoid the KO from Moonblast. So we're just going to recover here, as he does go out into Bulu, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. And yeah, so now we're going to go hard into our Ferrothorn on what we're predicting to be maybe a Horn Leech or like we were basically sacking Ferrothorn at this point, as he goes for Swords Dance. So now we're forced to sack Ferrothorn to the all-out pummeling, probably. Yep. And yeah, Ferrothorn's absolutely gone. So we got to go into our Venusaur here and hope he doesn't have Zen Headbutt, or we lose. As he reveals that he doesn't have Zen Headbutt, so we're just going to Synthesis here. And now here we should have HP fired, predicting Klefki, because he did show that he couldn't touch us, and HP fire ensured the game, as Solo makes a misplay and actually goes for these Sludge Bombs. So now we have a potential to lose, as we end up staying in as well on the Thunder Wave, which we should have probably pivoted to Rotom as well, as now he has a chance to win, because with our Venusaur paralyzed, and he still has a Azumarill in the back. So he sacks Klefki here. He's going to go into his Azumarill. We know he's going to set up. We're going to try and get a Poison here, as if he's Citrus Berry for some reason. Well, he's Citrus Berry because he's Zimu Bulu. And now we're going to sack our Cradily here, because we didn't want to take this, because this would have OHKO'd us easily. So in our Rotom we go to take the Aqua Jet, as he goes just for that. And we're just going to Volt Switch here. Knock him out. Into our Bulu we go, because we do not want his Diancie coming in. In comes this Clefable. We're just going to go directly into our Venusaur. Grassy terrain is up, and it's our only switch into it, really. And now we're just going to fire off a Sludge Bomb here. If I'm not mistaken. Well, we try to fire off a Sludge Bomb. We get parried, right? No, we go for a Synthesis here. Try and keep our Venusaur as healthy as possible. Because say we fired off a Sludge Bomb and he went into Diancie, he can just Diamond Storm and keep us low. And if we get paralyzed, we're going to lose the game. So we have to keep our Venusaur healthy. Goes for the Thunderbolt as we go for a Sludge Bomb and get paralyzed. So now we're going to try and Sludge Bomb again on his predicted taunt, as we do knock him out. In comes his Diancie, as we're just going to sack the Rotom here, because it's not really useful anymore, as he does go for the Diamond Storm. Going to go directly into our Tapu Bulu and fire off a Wood Hammer, because he doesn't have any good switch-ins of Wood Hammer, and if you did go into Clef, we get a free switch in to our Venusaur anyways. And he's forced to recover, and we can Sludge Bomb him down. So goes for the Fire Blast as we get paralyzed. We're just trying to hope that we don't get paralyzed, and so we can Synthesis up, as he goes for the Moonblast and gets the drop. So this drop means that now we cannot 2-KO his Clefable with Sludge Bomb, so we can actually lose this game to this thing 1v1, because he does have more soft boils and more PP than we do. Though we are paralyzed, but it's still not the best for us. So yeah, it's just gonna get really stally at this point again, just like the Steel game. And yeah, we gotta keep spamming Sludge Bomb. We're keeping ourselves healthy. We need to get out of this with at least a Sludge Bomb to hit Bulu, because even at like -3 or whatever, we're going to be able to kill the Bulu. So eventually we do get the crit. It's somewhere around here. It's so painful watching this, like watching us get parried and everything. So we Fire Blast there as we finally do get the crit and knock out Clefable, but we are out of Sludge Bombs at this point, so we have to hope for a Hidden Power Fire crit, as we do not get that, and he 2 kills us with Woodhammer and wins the game. So that is game 5, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, game 5. So it's now 3-2, so they now have a chance to come back even though they were down 2. So let's just get right into the next game. It's me versus It's Hatch. We had no type of scouting on this person because they were like subbed in at the last second or whatever. We knew that like they would possibly we knew that this person was gonna get past the team. And they only really had Vincoon and Flying Left as their good types, so Dragon just looked really good. I did sub out my Latios for a Latios because I wanted to have that Healing Wish support in the back, though it's still a Choice Scarf set. So let's just get right into this. Let's change sides. Okay, so I'm going to lead off with my Kyurem because it lives any hit from this Togekiss. And I didn't want to just lose him on immediately to Togekiss, though I could have let off with Sash Chomp, but Fire Blast wasn't going to do that much damage anyways. I'm just going to fire off a Fusion Bolt as he does go out into his Skarmory, just to see what set I am. Because if I was Scarf, I'm pretty sure he avoids the 2 KO from Fusion Bolt. So I'm just going to fire off an Ice Beam here as he does go out into Mantine. Now I'm going to fire off another Fusion Bolt as he does go into Gliscor. Like, this doesn't matter. Him switching around doesn't matter. I'm just going to click what's in front of me until he sacks something. So he's going to sack the Gliscor there, which is nice for me because that means I can just spam Fusion Bolt now and not really care. In comes this Togekiss. I'm just going to sack my useless Hydreigon. I mean, it's decent, but it lures this thing in, which I don't want coming in. Into my Dragonite we go. I'm just going to fire off a Fire Punch here as he does go out into his Mantine. He's just going to recover here as I do go out into my Latios. I mean, I figured since, like, I either double into Kyurem or I fire off a Trick here, and Togekiss covered both those options, so I'm going to just fire off a Psychic here, getting that read correctly, as he's just going to go out into his Zapdos here on the next Psychic. Because Dazzling Gleam would not kill me at that range. So I'm going to go directly into my Garchomp here as he makes a good play doubling back out in the Togekiss. I'm just going to stay in, get my Roxy here because I am Focus Sash. I can go into my Latias here. I was hoping to bait him into staying in here as he does stay in and let me get off that second Psychic damage, which is very crucial to pick him off with the, you'll see in the chat, he didn't know that it was Choice Scarf. So I can go into my Altari here, just knock him out with the Frustration. In the Skarmory he goes. I can just Roost here because I could actually lose to Charizard because I didn't have good switch-ins. I don't have a Goodra or anything, and this is my switch-in and it was low. So I'm gonna Roost here as he Roosts with the Skarmory. I didn't think he'd Roost. I thought he'd Defog honestly, but if I went hard into Kyurem, he just kind of lost, like legit lost the game there. But I guess if I didn't Roost, I guess like. Then again, he just lost the Fire Punch. I don't know. I didn't understand why he roosted there. So I'm going to go directly into my Kyurem here as he does choose a Defog now. And I can just fire off a free Ice Beam here. As he roosts. And now I'm going to fire off another Ice Beam. No, actually, no. I knew he was swapping out. And if he went to Zapdos, I can kill that afterwards. And if he goes down to Mantine, then I can just kill it with the Fusion Bolt. So I'm just going to Roost on the switch out as he goes down to Mantine, and now I can just Fusion Bolt that thing. Into his Charizard he goes. I'm going directly into my Altari because I do take a Flamethrower or Fire Blast from this thing with the Spadef and HP investment. As I'm just going to go for the Dragon Dance here because I wanted to be able to pressure his Zapdos if he goes into that, because I am not a Refresh set. Which, I guess he assumed that I was, and goes directly into Skarmory. I probably should have roosted there. Like honestly, this end game I could have played a lot better, but I'm gonna go into my Kyurem here as he whirlwinds me out into my Dragonite. I can just fire off a banded fire punch here in the sun, as it will hit anything that he wants to go out into. Goes down to Charizard. I'm just gonna fire off another fire punch as he roosts again. Gonna go into my Altaria here as he does fire off a flamethrower. I thought I avoided the 2KO, but I don't, so I lose my Altaria there. Into my Garchomp we go. While rocks were free, I felt like if he didn't, like, I would have stayed in there. If I stealth rocked and I knocked out Charizard, like if I stealth rocked there and he knocked out my Chomp, right? Then I'm forced to go out on the D-Knight. Then he can sack probably his Zapdos, go into his Skarmory, Defog. Not even that. He could just like sub with his Zapdos. Like it just gave him more opportunities to win, I felt, if I Stealth Rock there. Because if I Stealth Rocked and he stayed in, I probably lost. Because then it would be at the point where like his Zard can just knock out my Kyurem and I can't switch in my D-Knight. And then his Skarmory can beat my Dragonite 1v1, especially because he's leftovers. So I go right for the Outrage here as he goes directly into his Zapdos, which is good for me because now with that damage I should be able to win with just like E-Speed in the back potentially. So I'm going to Outrage again as he goes out to Skarmory. As I get the 2 turns, I'm going to go directly into my Kyurem here as he roosts, and now I can just fire off some Ice Beams here because it does kill everything on his team. As he sacks the Zapdos, so now like the game's looking over basically at this point for me. For him. So I'm going to go into my Dragonite here as he goes for the Flamethrower, gets a burn, which this, again, like another point where I could have lost the game. So I get burn here. I'm going to go directly into my Garchomp here because I felt like if he stayed in, like the Outrage was so obvious, and if he sacked Charizard, he 100% lost to Kyurem. So I'm actually going to pull a double out into my Garchomp because it covered the double, as well as it covered him going for the roost, because I felt like he'd roost as well. So I'm just going to go into my Chomp, set up my rocks as he stays in and roost. So now I'm just going to Fire Blast this thing as he goes for Defog. So now I win just by clicking Fire Blast because I can just Fire Blast his Charizard, then I can Outrage twice and I win the game 100%. So I'm just going to Outrage here as it goes directly into Skarmory. Gonna 2KO that thing with Outrage. I get the 3 turn and now I kill the Charizard. So really hype, like really hype LVL versus X. Both leagues, like we both played pretty well. I mean, I feel like we didn't play the best that we could have played, but we got the matchups right and we made the right calls. So we definitely came through in this one. So GG to X, we won 4-2. So Lotus is now the ULC 6 champions. Hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure to leave a like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.